It's Noah from Hacking Hollywood. Oh, it looks like Facebook's up. I'm working on my YouTube channel going up. There we go. Hey, everybody, what's up? Noah from Hacking Hollywood. Tonight we're going to talk about how to increase your chances of becoming a Hollywood writer. Let me first start off by saying I work in Hollywood. I've been there for 7 years, been in Southern California working on different aspects of television and film. I've worked as an editor, as a camera operator, as a assistant director, as a director, art department, you name it. So I've gotten to do a lot of production side of stuff. The one thing I haven't done a lot of is writing. And so I've gotten to develop and have inputs creatively on certain projects. But generally, writing has been one of those things that I've always been curious about and I've had a strong respect for. And so even though I don't have firsthand experience about getting stuff produced and made myself, hopefully these tips and tricks will help you in your journey on becoming a writer, especially if you want to write for Hollywood. And so, yeah, let me pull up real quick. On YouTube, I had a comment a couple months ago from somebody asking specifically about writing, and they were asking for my advice, and that's kind of why I wanted to do this specific video tonight, was about that because of that comment. And so let's see here. Let me pull that up. Or let me try to pull that up. Man, this stuff's so different now. Here, let me show you what I got going. For my Facebook friends who are watching, you're not going to be able to see my screen because I can only share one screen here at a time. But if you wanted to check out the YouTube channel, it's Hacking Hollywood, and you can just search that or my name, Noah Sargent, to try to find it on there. And I will scroll down on that page to try to find the comment that was about writing. Let's see. If I'm ever going to find it. It doesn't look like it's going to pop up. Let's see. 20 results. 10 question. All right. Show more. I should have totally found this before I started. Oh well. It's not going to come up. Maybe eventually I'll find that comment. 6 results. All right. Well, let me just talk about the points that I have here since I can't find the note. So, yeah, the first thing I would suggest to you if you're wanting to be a writer is it's all about reps, right? And so the first time you work on a script, the first time you produce something is not going to be your best work, right? It's going to take lots of reps. It's going to take a lot of time for you to develop your writing style, for you to develop your voice. And so I've heard essentially the longer, obviously, you've put it, the more time and effort you've put into something like that, the more it's going to pay off over time. And so just know that even though you want things to happen fast for you and you want things to happen right away, it's going to take some time and effort and some energy on your part. There are numerous people who have worked in Hollywood for years and years and years before they get their break, right? And so that's just something to keep in mind, to know that your first script may not be the one that they produce. So okay, so the next tip I have for you is starting off small. A lot of people try to tackle their big magnum opus project the first time around. They shoot for the stars, which I still encourage you to do. I still want you to achieve your dreams and hope for big things. But if you're able to break that down into smaller bits, essentially short films, right? It's just essentially a scene or two scenes that come up. And so if you're able to do breakdown and maybe even take that big concept idea that you have, and instead of writing 150, 170 pages for that script, why not break it down and do just the first scene, or maybe the key scene, the pivoting scene? And so let me tell you another story that's related to that. I met a buddy of mine on a TV show called Pitch, and it was a sports show about a female pitcher. And we got to talking on set, and he was telling me about a feature film, or I'm sorry, about a script that he produced. It was a short film, and it just happened to get into a major film festival. And so he was pretty excited, and he wanted to, talk to a few people and possibly get the next thing rolling, the next ball rolling, right? And so he was about to go to another film festival, and before he went, he ended up contacting his prop master, the guy who helped him build all the props and stuff, obviously on his film. And so they went to lunch and they were talking, and it just so happens to be the prop master that works with Quentin Tarantino, right? Which is kind of cool. Inglourious Basterds, a ton of other movies, Pulp Fiction, right? Really big, famous director. So long story short, Quentin calls the prop master. And he's like, hey, man, I'm just checking in. How you doing? They're buddies. Turns out Quentin's like 10 minutes away from where they're hanging out. And so he crashes the lunch meeting that they're having, the hangout that they're having. And so he's like, Quentin, I know you've been through this before. I know everybody asks you this question. You've probably heard it 1,000 times, right? What advice would you give a young director who's in my position? I have this short film. It's been getting some publicity. What's my next step? And so Quentin basically tells him, you've got to think ahead, right? You've got to realize that when you go into those festivals, when people see your work, when you catch that instant gratification, that moment where you've caught people's eye, you've got to have the big picture in mind. You've got to have that script already written, because once you get them excited in that moment, you're like, yes, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you've connected with the short film. I am actually looking for funding for the full feature-length film. And so that's the time where you have the most opportunity to make that switch. And so you only have that one moment that when you spark somebody's attention, when you catch their eye, especially an investor's eye. So capitalize on that moment is basically the advice he gave. So short films can be really, really powerful. They can be really, really important for that pivoting thing. So let's see. Oh, I think I'm getting closer to finding the comments. No. All right. I'm going to give up on finding the comment, and then eventually I'll tag it in the notes. I am so good at this live streaming thing, right, guys? All right. So the next note I had here is a writers group. So if you're a part of a group that actively participates in learning and getting better and growing as writers, that's going to be good practice for you. You're going to be able to read other people's materials, have it read to you, and they're going to be able to read your material. It's also going to challenge you to actively be pursuing writing, right? You'll have people that are kind of depending on you, and you're depending on them, and they're depending on you to be a part of this group. And so that group of writers, iron sharpens iron. They're going to get better at what they do. They're going to improve each other and grow as writers do. So that would be another bit beneficial thing for everybody if you're able to join or be a part or even host a writers group. So, which goes to the next thing. A lot of writers like to do their own thing and they like to write on their own. That's totally cool. But I kind of challenge you to step outside your comfort zone with this next one. And that is to edit somebody else's writing. I know that sounds kind of daunting, and I know that's really personal for a lot of people. They don't want to touch other people's scripts, or they're really cautious about having their scripts only written by them. But there's something powerful about collaboration, right? And there's something powerful about being able to have more than one set of eyes on that material. And so that just elevates the work. And obviously it doesn't work in every situation. And obviously there's certain projects that are just yours and you don't really need or want other people to be involved in that sense. But I would encourage you for at least one project to try that out, to try to have somebody else who's an inspiring writer to also spend some time reading and critiquing your scripts, and vice versa. And even editing, like rewriting certain parts of it. And obviously you can save extra drafts, and if you want to just do as an experiment where you can always revert back to the one that wasn't edited, that's totally cool. That's totally a smart thing to do. But consider that. Consider trying editing somebody else's writing and having them edit and critique yours, which is also a part of the writing community as far as like being in a writer's group. Those are some of the things that could actively be practiced. And so another thing you can consider doing is some people are really, really strong at dialogue, and other people are strong at story structure and outlining the arc of the story and making sure characters fall into certain timelines at certain places. Seth Worley, if you want to Google that name, Seth has some great writing material that helps kind of create the overarching themes and stories and rules, so to speak, that go along with writing. So those are all great tools to utilize in your practices as writers. Another thing is to be studying other writers, right? So obviously there's some great scripts out there. There's great movies and great things that have been created. So break down what makes those scripts, what makes those movies so special to you, right? Create a list, separate them in priorities, or find a way to categorize them in certain ways. Find a way to break down and study the material being the other scripts of a successful movie or successful piece that you inspired to be similar to. I'm not saying you rip them off and copy them exactly, but if you are able to dissect and see what makes writing attractive to you, what makes story attractive to you, and character development, those are going to be strong, powerful things that you could use as tools to complement your skill set in the future. Another thing I'll say, I have this as an artist, as a video creator, as a producer. I'm sure a lot of other writers have this kind of mental hurdle that they run into, just like a lot of other creative people do. And that's the hurdle of, well, I want to be unique. I want to be special. I want to create some sort of product, some sort of thing that hasn't been done before. I want to create some sort of project that is different from everything else, right? And so that's a hurdle that we have to face. I don't think every project's going to be 100% that way, and not every project's going to be 100% sold out to creating this corporate or commercial product, right? But there's got to be a happy medium of something in between that is the sweet spot between corporate commercial structure and this totally artistic freedom, right? And the reality too is, if you look at the history of time and how art was created over the last thousands of years, you'll see that there aren't a lot of things that are like unique and new, and we just got to embrace that we're really just dealing with the same problems in the same ways, just with different circumstances and different tools and different things over time. And so storytelling, writing, the art of that is ultimately something that's been happening for a lot longer than cinema has been around, right? And so if you look at how television and film has captivated our attention now, if you look back 50 years, 80 years, you'll see how radio captivated the audiences telling stories then. Before that, there's theater, and obviously these things all still exist, and they're still mediums of storytelling today. But if you look back even further, obviously theater and performing arts was something that took everybody by storm, right? And so those are the things, the forms of storytelling that were at its peak, or at people's most attention, because it wasn't divided across the internet, across television, across film, across radio. You know, they were all focused on the live theatrical productions of it. And then now our attention spans are divided over multiple mediums. And so that could be a good thing and that could be a bad thing, but it is what it is. And, the internet obviously has changed a lot of things. So that's something that we can kind of consider and play to. So studying others is a huge thing for sure. You can get a lot of scripts online now, which is really, really powerful. The last thing I'll encourage you with is apply for internships and assistant programs for other writers, right? And so
I'm not sure about that.
that's Siri chiming in. No, wait, that's Alexa. Oops, I just said Alexa twice. Hope I didn't cue it for a bunch of people at your homes. But yeah, so I would encourage you to apply to writers' internships or assistantship programs. If you can get your foot in the door, getting coffee for somebody else, that's how I got in the door in Hollywood. I interned at Fox. I interned at a small independent production company. And so those things allowed me to get my foot in the door, to get a face instead of just a resume that's turned in an abstract thing that they'll never put a face to. And when I was able to get in at that level, a ground level, just doing grunt work, passing papers around, doing coffee, taking notes, that kind of paying your dues, so to speak, that happens will hopefully pay off in the long run, right? And so, who's texting me? Oh, sorry. So yeah, paying your dues, being a part of that will hopefully give you better insight. And so, obviously, you can contact people who've had successful projects produced before. But the other question you got to ask yourself is, do you really need or want to be in this Hollywood system? And do you really need or want to be creating scripts for a living? Meaning that's how you make your money. That's how you make your 9 to 5. Like that's all you do is write. And so what happens when it's no longer something you do as a hobby and it becomes your work, right? Obviously that's a wonderful thing, and that's something I do for a living now, is I create for a living. It's not necessarily writing, but there's a transformation that happens, right? And so instead of doing it because you're passionate and you love it, I still do it because I'm passionate and I love it, but you're also doing it because you have to make ends meet, you have to make money, you have to get the bills paid, right? And so that's kind of the ultimate question you got to ask yourself. And so if your dying desire and you absolutely have to do that, which is why I'm still in Hollywood, right? The reason I got out here is because I had the strong, motivating desire to get out here to get stuff produced and to be a part of this wacky Hollywood world. You got to push through, and there's thousands of people and thousands of scripts, and so there's lots of people trying, and it doesn't mean that you can't do it. What it means is you've got to find a way to work harder and leverage the tools and leverage your resources around you to get better and to give you the greatest edge. And so that's what this video is all about, is finding ways for you to practice good habits outside of writing technique, right? Because I can't teach you any of that. But what I can teach you is or show you from my experience being in the Hollywood system and what has worked for me. And so hopefully that would work for you guys too. So hey, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. This is Hacking Hollywood. I am trying to go live in this new format a couple times a week, talk about different subjects that people have asked me about. I have kind of a Hollywood inside perspective, being a production assistant, being an assistant director on various projects. So if you have any questions, please leave a comment here on YouTube, or if you're on my Facebook stream, come check out the channel. I'd love you guys to check it out and see what you think. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys later.